Welcome to the Beyond Jiu Jitsu Podcast. This is episode 119. Today, we have a very special guest. We have our friend, our brother, our training partner, Andreas. Andreas is a brown belt. And did you get your brown belt under Adam?
No, I didn't.
But you've been training under Adam for... What is it? Last 2 years? 3 years.
You can tell I'm not really good with microphones. I've been to, how long has it been?
Too long, my man. Too long. It's been a long time. No, since you started training with me.
Mid-COVID.
Was it mid-COVID?
Yeah.
Which was, God, I can't even.
2019?
No.
20.
You started before me, so yeah. Would have been.
No, it was like
2020?
No, 2019 must have been, because I started in 2019.
It was during after the first lockdown in Sydney.
Yeah.
Did I start in 2019?
Fuck, I can't even remember. It wasn't even that long ago.
This is terrible.
I'm sure we can Google it now. What's the first
This episode's a
lockdown,
joke.
Yeah,
Right?
I started in 2019, I think, in November 2019.
I'm sure you've got a YouTube video on it.
I do, yeah. It's 2019. I do have a YouTube video on it.
Anyway.
It went viral. My first ever YouTube video got published in a bunch of articles by like Jiu-Jitsu
That's super
Eastern
credible.
Europe.
Yeah, that's a super credible.
Super credible. It is super credible for everyone in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
Wikipedia as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm on Wikipedia. I got my Wikipedia page.
Yeah.
I was on Reddit.
Yeah.
Jeremy posted it on Reddit. He's like, check out my friend's YouTube channel. It's awesome. Super cringe.
What was the video like?
Oh, it was like 5 things to know before you start jiu-jitsu. I just started my jiu-jitsu, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Journey.
Yeah.
Tip 1, wear underpants.
They weren't even 5 things I wish I knew. It was like, that was the title, 5 things I wish I knew. They're not even things I wish I knew. I already knew half of them. The video's dog shit, man. Don't watch it.
We'll put a link in the description.
Yeah.
Link in the bio. Check it out.
Anyway, that's Kieren. I'm Adam. That's Andres. Andres started training with me at an undetermined date prior to today.
Yeah.
Sensational.
But yeah, was already a brown belt. But we met when you were a purple belt at a different gym.
Yeah.
That's when we had met. And then, yeah, COVID was crazy times.
I've got a funny anecdote about that when we met, right? So I was coming into training, and I remember because you came into that gym with your mate from Brazil.
Yeah, Johannes.
From Johannes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember you were speaking in Portuguese with him.
Yeah.
And we were in the change rooms, and then I turned to you and I was like, oh man, like your English is really good, bro. Like, where'd you learn English? And you're like, what? What? And I was like, yeah, man, like you speak really good English. And you're like, dude,
you should be proud of yourself.
You're like,
Pat on
dude,
the back.
I'm Australian.
With a couple more years, it'll be even better.
Like, you're very fluent. You sound like a native.
Yeah.
No fucking way.
Would have been even funnier if you were like, hey man, your English is coming along, and you started correcting me or something. Yeah.
That is so fucking good, man.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And I think that's how we hit it up pretty well. Yeah.
Oh,
It's like,
man.
this guy's a little bit challenged. So.
Yeah.
Let me help him.
Yeah. No, take this guy under my wing. He needs some help.
Oh shit. So Andres, how long have you been training jiu-jitsu for?
I started in 2013. So like just out of uni, I was trying to find out what to do with all the free time that I would have after uni. And
Sorry, just to quickly before that, to go back in the timeline a little bit more.
Where were you born?
Yeah, no. So from Venezuela, but how old were you when you left? Because you lived in when did you come to Australia?
so I left Venezuela when I was 18, I think, 18 or 19. So that would have been 2008. 2008.
Right.
Yeah. I think.
I was curious if because was Australia where you started jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. I'd never done any martial arts before. I always wanted to. Like, I think it's a dream of mine as a child because you used to watch like Jean-Claude Van Damme's movies. What's it called? Bloodsport. Yeah.
Oh,
with
best
Chong,
movie ever.
Chong Li doing his pecs and all that.
Yeah.
But you play like that in the mirror, but you had no pecs. I still don't have any pecs. Yeah, man, I always wanted to. I used to dress up in as a black belt. Like I had like a little karate gi and a black belt,
That's
and I would
sick.
run around when I was a kid. and I still don't get to wear one for. It'll be a while. Sure. But yeah, so I never really tried. I did like a bit of kickboxing or like stuff like that, but mostly like sport stuff, not really, just to like sweat really.
Yeah.
Then when I got here, so I got here 2008. Then I kind of went back to Spain and to Venezuela a few times. I went to Spain for a year to do an internship, and I met this girl who she had this thing where she always used to talk about her ex-boyfriends to me all the time. I don't know if it's a thing women do, but and like then she like one day, man, we literally like, oh my God, I'm pretty sure my girlfriend's gonna listen to this. Sorry, baby. But one day we started like in bed playing around and she started choking me out, but not like in a sexual way. Like just like fully like she's like, oh, look, I can choke you out.
So she locked you up in like a body triangle, fucking
like
rear naked choke.
Rear naked me, and I was like, what are you doing? I was like, ah!
She put a ball gag in your mouth, started whipping you. That's not jiu-jitsu, Andres, right?
And then she's like, oh, that's, it's jiu-jitsu. And I was like, oh yeah, whatever. And then I was in a trip to the States, and then my brother had a friend from Panama or something like that. And he was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And we were having a chat, and he's like, what? Because I was in Hawaii surfing, and then I stopped to visit my brother in Philly. And this guy just started talking about like, oh, have you heard of jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu? And I was like, man, no idea. He's like, Gracie jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, nah, no idea. He's like, yeah, and I fully did like, is that like karate or like the whole karate chop thing? I was like, yeah. And he was like, no, it's not. And I was like, okay, whatever. And then I don't know, like I read something about Kelly Slater in a magazine talking about how good it is for fitness and how much it helped surfing. And then I started sort of Googling it because then, I finished uni and I was like, I want to go and try something, but the surf was it was like summer, so there's not a lot of surf around. And then I Googled like, Bondi Beach Jiu-Jitsu and whatnot, and then something came up and then I just went and trained and I was hooked from the first day.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So about 9 years.
Yeah, man, it's about 9 years.
And it all started by some bird choking you in bed.
Yeah. No, we also had it's a bit of a funny one as well, because the other thing that also kind of got me into jiu-jitsu is that me and my dad, I was in Venezuela, and me and my dad went to the baseball stadium. And it's pretty rough.
Baseball?
Like,
do people play baseball in Venezuela?
Oh, heaps.
Really?
Yeah, dude,
Wow.
it's the number one sport.
No way. I thought it was more like
Wouldn't it be football?
United States thing.
No, it's in Brazil. That was racist. We're not the same. We're not the same people. We're quite similar.
Don't you speak Brazilian there? Don't you speak Venezuelan? Like,
I've had that a few times. What do you speak in Venezuela? Venezuelan? And I'm like, yeah. That's exactly what we speak.
yeah.
Man, and then we're at the stadium, right? And I don't know what happened. My dad got into a bit of a scuffle with someone at the door because he does that sometimes. It's a bit loose. And this dude like fully went up to like punch my dad. And I got in the middle and I was sort of blocking. I was like, no, you're not going anywhere. And, my dad's, mind you, is not the most athletic guy out there. And I was just like, no, you're going to touch him. And then like something happened and he sort of like, this other dude ran around me and then went straight to my dad and punched him in the face. And I just lost it. Like my dad's like my best mate. Like we do everything together and we get along so well. And then I saw that and I just fully went nuts and went up to the guy. I saw red.
Body started dropping around.
And dude, like I just ran up to this guy and just pushed him against the wall, and then a police officer got in the middle, and I was like, I need to sort of punch this guy in a way that I don't punch the police officer. So I was like, sort of, going around the country trying to, and I don't know, and apparently, I don't know, I literally just don't remember much of what happened, but I think even my dad came up to me to grab me and it's like, man, stop, it's fine. And I fully just like pushed him back. Anyway, so, all that happened. And then obviously, the cops came in and they're like, okay, man, so we have to take you with us. You're getting arrested. And I was like, really, man, again? Yeah, it was wild when I was a kid. No, and like I was like, nah, man, like we get. And then my dad's like, oh man. So he goes, he puts his hand in his pocket, like takes out his wallet, pulls out a bunch of cash, and then he goes like, just stand in the corner, and then goes to the cop and gives him a handshake and says something in his ear. Just goes, hey, son. And the cop looks at him like, oh, right. Okay, no, you guys are good to go. And I was like, okay, so let's go back to the baseball
Dad with
stadium.
the clutch, boys.
But again,
This is
full
fucking
disclaimer,
wild.
This is what happens in South America all the time. You probably would have seen something like that in Brazil.
Yeah, nothing like as dodgy as that. Not like, I mean, I never saw sort of like bribery like that, but yeah, for sure it happens.
Yeah.
You know, it's well known that people, when they're, you know, if they're doing a road trip or something, they'll keep, like, Brazil's similar to America. Like, you know how when you get pulled over in Australia, they just ask to see your license, right? And in the US and in movies and that, it's like license and registration, and they've got that document in the glove box of their car and whatever. So Brazil's like that. You need that document for the car.
Full of cash.
Yeah, exactly. And people will leave money in there, right? So if you get pulled over, you're bribing them. But I did have probably one of the crazier sort of scenes that I saw was, so where we lived for most of the time in Brazil was this sort of main street, and from our apartment you would walk, I don't know what it would be, like a couple of 100 meters, there'd be the train station, and then a couple of 100 meters past that, the supermarket. So we'd just walk down to the supermarket to do our groceries. So we'd gone down to the supermarket, and we were walking back home. And as we were walking past the train station, like the train stations have security guards and stuff, they were like, you know, we're just walking down the street, and they're like, get in. And the security guards just start like herding people into the train station. Like, we weren't catching the train. We were like walking past the train station. They're like, get in. And they like herd us into the train station and lock the gates and everything. We're like, what the fuck's going on? And then just like two mobs of people like just took up the whole road. They were like two opposing football team fans, just like clashed. And they had like, you know, baseball bats and big bits of wood with nails and shit in them. Then the cops rocked up with like assault rifles and shit. It's not like they started like shooting people, but it was like this big brawl, and we were like, holy shit.
Straight up football gangsters.
Yeah. Like, you know, sort of similar to what you'll see on the news or something. Like, wasn't like there were then like, you know, I don't believe anyone died or anything, but it was still kind of like, oh shit. Like, you know, that's such a foreign sort of thing when you don't
care about football.
Well, if you don't care about football, like, it's funny. I was going to say such a foreign thing if you're not like from South America, but these sort of things happen in England all the time, right? They have massive football riots in England. But anyway, it's still the sort of thing that you don't see in Australia, right? Like, you know, something like that would be front page news. But there it was just, you know, just normal.
I think technically you were the foreign one in this situation.
No, I was. Yeah.
You definitely were.
But I didn't finish the story. So what I was going to say, like right at the end, is that after this whole you know scuffle happened with the cup, you know, I just thought to myself, there has to be a better way.
ShamWow.
We got to clip that.
But fully, man, I was like, no, there has to be a better way. Like, you know, there's probably a way to defend yourself without, you know, hurting someone. Not that I hurt the guy, but you know, just, you know, grabbing someone and holding them down and all that. You know,
And then you know, it came full circle, this incident at a baseball stadium, and then one day you learnt a baseball choke and you're like, oh, it's come full circle.
It's all there. But man, yeah, what you're saying about the stadium and all that, you know, sporting events in South America are wild, man. Like, you don't go. I never went to a stadium for the actual event. I just wanted to see the brawl.
You just went to fight.
Even a baseball? Do they get after it?
Man, yeah, dude, people get shot.
Holy shit.
No, seriously, inside the stadium, it's happened a few times. Like, there's videos, I'll send you one on YouTube, where there's like there's one team here, then there's like a fence, and then there's like the other team, and then people like never stand close to the fence because then people get stabbed or like they get dude, it's wild. Like, it's super hectic. Like, it's pretty third world, but yeah.
Jeez.
It's but yeah, it's just how it is, you know. And I never went there to fight or anything, but it was really, I was a bit of an adrenaline junkie when I was a kid. So I was like, okay, just wait for the first gunshot. And it's like, boom, and it's like a race. And you're like, fucking, you're like, yeah. It's pretty, yeah. I don't know. That's how we had fun when we were kids.
Yeah. That's fucking wild.
It sounds wild, but I mean,
but it's
you get the same adrenaline in America. You just go to school.
Oh.
Just stating some factual information.
You need to get one of those sounds.
No, but it is
Yeah.
it's factual information.
Well,
right?
it's true, man. That's what it is.
Shit.
But yeah, it's like, I mean, we're not talking about gun control, obviously, but it's just, again, something when you come from a country like Australia where you're not allowed guns at all, it's just it doesn't even register in your brain.
That someone would have one.
Yeah, like the thought of someone having a gun or getting shot guns. Or, you know.
Like it's so rare. It's so fucking rare.
So like even, you know, not even talking about shootings or, you know, horrific school shootings or stadium shootings or whatever, even just the fact that, in Brazil, it's super common for people just to pull up and rob you with a gun, you know, like, I mean, obviously you can be robbed in Australia, but
they're going to use a knife.
They're going to shank you. You know?
It's going to get stabbed.
Jiu-jitsu.
Don't worry.
But, choke you out.
You know, like I remember when I did when I first went to Brazil just as a tourist, and, you know, you took one of those guided tours through a favela, like one of the most famous favelas in Brazil or in Rio is called Rocinha. It's like a really big favela, and you can do a guided tour through it. And just
wait, as in like you're a tourist through this favela
with a little flag,
with like,
little hat.
Like you have a tour guide, and on the left we have fucking homeless
legit.
Bill.
No, legit, because you can't
watch the needles, guys.
Crackhead Carl over there.
That's how it is.
What the fuck?
Because you can't just walk into you could, but it would be relatively dangerous, right, to just walk in there. But you can take these guided tours, and because the favela is like a hierarchy system, right? Like there's individuals who run the favela, right? The entire slum. And it's like a tiered system. So at the top of the favela, like as in the physical top of it, who live it, because favelas are always like built on hillsides.
Yeah, like they're tiered. So that's actually true.
Yeah, because the infrastructure.
Like I've seen that on movies.
So the white bills live at the bottom.
Pretty much, right? Because the infrastructure of the favela is terrible, right? Because there's no engineering and stuff going on. People are just
building. Shacks. We're imagining shacks here.
Kind of. So you get on a motorbike and ride to the top. No helmet, none of that shit. You just jump on the back of a bike and a dude just flies up the hill.
Yeah.
And you get off at the top. And the people who live at the top are the people who run the favela. Because the further down you live, this is no exaggeration, that's where
shit rolls downhill, bro.
Exactly. So you get closer down and it's just like human turds and stuff everywhere. Nice. It's fucking gross. Fuck. But the people who run the favela, they don't have a problem with these tours, because obviously the tour guides know the people who run the favela. And because they actually make money off it. So for example, going through the tour, there's you stop at one person's part of the favela who, is an artist, and, you can buy their paintings and stuff. And there's, the favelas are a whole little city. There's like bakeries, so you can stop and, get some food and whatever. And but I remember when we did this tour, and the tour guide's like, here, you can take photos, and here they're like, okay, so these people, like, put your cameras away, you can't take photos of these people. But dude's just like chilling with like massive assault rifles and stuff. And again, it's coming from somewhere from Australia. It's like, well, I've never even seen one of those in person, which is probably so crazy for any Americans being like, what do you mean you've never seen a gun?
Just go to Walmart.
Yeah. I opened a bank account. They gave me one. It's just so foreign now, So, these crazy stories. I mean...
Wait, so you've been on one of these tours?
Yeah. It was cool. Wow. It's to this date the best donut I've ever had. I bought in a favela.
Right.
It was so good.
Shit.
Well, I mean, the chocolate tasted a bit weird.
It was probably gone powder.
Yeah. It was powdered. Yeah, hang on a second. I've been on one.
How
of
much
those
was
tours.
it?
Oh, super cheap. We did like this day tour thing where we went to I've forgotten what the steps are called. There's these famous steps in Rio. Oh God, I've forgotten the name of them, but they're very famous because this one dude essentially like mosaiced the whole massive set of stairs by himself.
Yeah. I've seen that photo.
I've forgotten what they're called.
I still can't get over the fact that they've taken like essentially the ghetto and made it a fucking tourist attraction, and like you go through and do a tour, like a guided tour on it.
Yeah.
That's insane.
So it was like this day tour where like we went to the famous steps, we went on this like famous little tram thing that they have in Rio, went to the favela and went to Sugarloaf Mountain, which is that famous mountain rock thing.
Is that the one
and
with
maybe
the Jesus?
no, that's a different one. And I think we went to that too. Well, that I've been to multiple times. But anyway,
Is it Jesus?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's called Christ the Redeemer.
Yeah, well, fuck.
Yeah.
Jesus, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
I think he's asking for a street name.
Yeah,
No, we don't call him Jesus.
yeah. They call him G Dog in the street. G Dog. Yeah. No.
This is so derailed, man.
Shit. Yeah, hang on. We better come back on topic. Jiu-jitsu. All right, continue. All right, bring it back. You have to mention the word jiu-jitsu. So
Of
people are
course,
it's a jiu-jitsu podcast.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
we got to hit our quota.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was just like a whole tour thing. And yeah, because I don't know, like I never personally had any dangerous experiences in Brazil. Like I lived there for 5 years and I was never not assaulted. In Portuguese, the word assaulted just means like robbed, right? Doesn't mean like in English, you think physically assaulted.
Yeah.
So I was never like mugged or robbed. I was never like pickpocketed, or I never had someone try fight me, or I never had any.
Really? Never even pickpocketed?
No, I never had any dangerous situations or altercations in Brazil.
5 years.
In 5 years. But obviously, like, you know, I would go to the gym and like one of my friends would be like, this is the fucking third time I've been robbed in like the last month.
Oh, shit.
So, I mean, it happens. There was also like while I was living there, there was this, so there's these people who, when you park your car on the street, they will essentially come up to you and they're pretty much bribing you. What they say is like, hey man, like I'll look after your car for you while you're gone, and like you give me some money.
And if you don't pay them, they fuck your car up? Is that?
Yeah, pretty much. That's sort of the arrangement. Some of them are, it's not always as clean, like it's not always as brutal as that. Sometimes it is, like for example, in my wife's city, which is a smaller city, these people are actually really helpful because you'll be going to this restaurant and you're trying to find a park, and they actually help you. Like they'll actually be like, oh, this dude up here is leaving, and they'll like kind of essentially.
So they're like a valet, like a street valet.
Yeah. Essentially, so some of them are more actually like street valets, and some of them are essentially just like, if you don't pay me to watch your car while you're off doing whatever, I'm just going to break into it and take your shit. And yeah, and usually you just kind of give them whatever sort of change you've got on you, like a few bucks or whatever. And it was at this famous park in Sao Paulo. It's called Ibirapuera. It's like would be the equivalent of like Central Park or whatever. And yeah, it's like a nice area of Sao Paulo. And this guy was parking. The dude came up. He's like, hey man, what's your car? Blah, blah, blah. He's like 20 reais, which would be $20. He's like, man, I'm not giving you $20. Like you usually give him a few bucks. He's like, no man, $20 for me to watch your car. And he's like, dude, I'm not giving you $20. The dude just like pulled out a gun, just shot him and killed him over $20. Like, which obviously is an extreme story.
Yeah.
You know? But anyway, I never had any dangerous things happen to me in 5 years. But you know, then again, I've been in dangerous situations in Australia, right? Obviously, I've lived here longer, but you know. Yeah. Anyway, crazy shit happens. Not anymore, bro, because I'm like a black belt and shit.
Yeah.
No.
Pretty legit.
Yeah. No, like a black belt ain't helping you when someone's got a gun. You know?
That stuff happens a lot.
That's where you need to train with Steven Seagal. Then you're sweet.
Yeah.
You know, take care of all those moves.
Yeah, wrist locks and
wrist locks and shit.
Use the weight against them.
Yeah.
You know,
So, Andreas, you recently were spending a bit of time traveling.
Yeah.
Like this, so you, during the second big lockdown in Sydney, back on the COVID piece, but for those that don't know, we had one big lockdown. It was like 3 months or something. We, were released from the lockdown prison, and then they hit us with another one, and you were like, nah, fuck this, I'm out. Smart move. And you went to Europe. Europe, yeah?
Europe,
That's where you went first and foremost, because we didn't know how long it was going to be. It ended up being like another 3 or 4 months or something. So it's a good call. And you spent 12 months in total, just over?
12 months,
12 months in Europe. And during that time, you spent a lot of time traveling to different gyms.
Yeah.
Talk us through that.
Man, it was good fun, eh? Like we left and we didn't really know where we were gonna settle. And we ended up not really settling anywhere, just like traveling for a whole 12 months. And in the meantime, I was kind of like, well, I do want to train jiu-jitsu. Like I don't want to stop. Like I don't think I can stop at this point. Like I'm always sort of thinking about jiu-jitsu, or like, you know, I'll be in bed.
So
like,
close to fulfilling that childhood dream of wearing a black belt karate suit.
Yeah, right.
You'd be like, I did it, Mom.
And, you know, like to the point where like I'll be cuddling with my girlfriend and I'm practicing my grips from the back, you know, like probably hand fighting with her.
Yeah.
She's like, stop it. I'm
They
like,
hate that, eh? They fucking hate it. Stop doing jiu-jitsu on me.
She learned how to tap though. She's like tap, and I have to let go. Yeah.
Yeah, like when they go to cuddle you and you like close your half guard on their leg and you like, put a lockdown in.
Yeah. The other day I was like trying to like fucking heel hook my fiance. She's like, stop trying to leg lock me. And I'm like, what? You know the term leg lock? It was like a fucking epiphany. She's like, she listens.
Yeah.
No way.
Don't you go to hug someone in the street, make sure you get your underhooks.
Yeah. Double unders. Let's go.
But yeah, so every city we went to, I tried to get, to find a gym and then go train.
Did you travel with, sometimes when people travel, they're like, try to save space, so they kind of like just throw a rashi in. Did you travel with a gi as well?
Man, so my suitcase was half gis and rashis, and then I had like 2 t-shirts and a pair of shoes.
Yes, dude.
Seriously, I had like 2 gis, which is like 7 kilos. Or like
yeah, and it
6
takes
kilos,
up a decent amount of space,
and like
right?
it's thick, right?
Good,
So,
man.
Yeah.
And
That's how you do it.
And then what? And then I had a bunch of like rashis and just shorts and stuff, because I was like, well, I mean, you can wear them around the house as well, so it's kind of like,
Well, you're going for a year. Like, shit, you're going to need your kit.
Yeah.
If you're John Danaher, you can wear rashis everywhere. Weddings, funerals.
No discrimination. Man, yeah. So, we went, and like I was just like every city we went to, I was like, oh, I just want to keep training, and also because, you when you're on holiday, you kind of eat a bit too much and then drink a little bit too much, and then you feel like you're constantly on the verge of being out of shape. So you're like, oh, I just, at least even if I do terribly at training, I just want to go and like sort of break a sweat,
Yeah.
So yeah, I did that. I mean, I looked for gyms. I think I visited probably like 12 or something like that, 12 gyms in between, in that year all around Europe, like from France to, we were in Israel as well for a while, which is not part of Europe, but I counted as Europe just because of the trip. I mean, no, I don't.
Just because everyone's white, or what are we talking about?
I just like, because I put it in the same category just because it was like a Euro trip.
You're on a
for
Euro
and
trip,
like,
I can title this episode "From School Shootings to Racism." This episode's got everything.
Yeah, it's got it all.
And with a dash of jiu-jitsu. So 12 different gyms. So we can or cannot go through all of them. Let's start with a bit more of a broad question. What was sort of like the best experience you had as a visitor across these gyms? Was there one particular gym where it was the vibe was awesome, or you learnt a super cool technique, or what was the best experience of visiting multiple gyms, or was it just the experience as a whole?
There's a few things, right? Because like some places I stayed, we stayed in for about a month, 2 months. Like, man, in Israel we were for like, I think a month and a half. So it's a fair bit of time, and I was training like every single day. And I was training.
So some gyms you visited, like you were there multiple times, and others was just a drop in.
And others was just like a drop in.
Right.
And then, for example, the ones in Israel where, man, everyone was super friendly. Like everyone was extremely friendly in Israel. I loved the place, great food, etc. And in terms of jiu-jitsu, it was really funny because I found this place that was really close to where I was staying. And then there was a bunch of people there. Well, like, mind you, the level was not great. But, everyone was so friendly that I was like, whatever, man, I'll just keep coming here and have a good time. And then I met this other dude who was a little bit sort of like above average in that group in terms of skill. And he goes, hey, man, you might want to go and try out this other gym where the level's maybe a little bit high. And I was like, yeah, cool, I'll go check it out. And I went to the other one, and the level was way higher. And again, everyone was super. There was a few Aussies there as well. Actually, I met a guy there who was like, "Oh, so you're from Sydney and whatnot." And then we got talking, and then he mentioned the podcast.
Get fucked.
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
really?
seriously. Yeah, he's like, "Oh, yeah, the guys from Beyond Jiu Jitsu. Yeah, I love that podcast." I was like, "Dude, that's
International.
Yeah, man. So I think that there was different things, right, for each gym, because I think I was trying to adapt. You can't expect to have the same experience everywhere, for various reasons. One of them cultural, as in the sense of the country that you're in, like some just different cultures. Then cultures within the gym. So I guess you wouldn't call it the subculture, but
Yeah.
well, you can call it
gym
that,
culture.
Gym
Yeah,
culture,
yeah.
And then obviously the level of jiu-jitsu in the gym. Those were sort of the three main things that would change in different gyms, and then that would make me want to adapt in a different way. So some places I would just go and be like, I know the technique's not going to be great, so I'll just go and break a sweat and hang out with the guys. And sometimes they're like, oh man, we're going for a beer, you should join us. There's a party on Saturday, you should come with us. And that gets you allows you to meet people in the area as well, and then just do stuff that local people would do.
Did you find as a whole across all the gyms you visited that they were very visitor friendly, or did you have some gyms where they were a bit sort of old school, like hey,
Don't steal our secrets,
Yeah.
Kieren.
Foreigners.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, and sort of two-part question: did you have? Obviously you speak English, Spanish. Do you speak any German?
I
Do you speak
understand a little bit, but I wouldn't claim it.
So did you have
That's a good question.
any language barrier? Like obviously in Spain, if the teaching in Spanish, it's not going to be a problem for you other than some slight different slang words, as is the case. But
What language were they taught in? The class?
Yeah, did you have language gyms where they went out of their way to teach you in English or whatever?
Yeah. So in France, so I'll answer first the first question. So, man, I found that I found both extremes, both ends of the spectrum, and everything in between. There was a gym where I went in France, where man, I literally went in. I was like, oh, this gym looks kind of cool because it was a small town. It's in Biarritz. It's like a surfy town, really, really cool place. They call it the Bondi of France, kind of. It's pretty cool. And yeah, most people that had lived in Bondi at some point.
Oh, that's so cool, man. That's fucking sick.
I went to this one gym, right? And I go and it was not reception. It was like a surf shop / jiu-jitsu shop, and then they had mats at the back and a skateboard ramp. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I asked the guy at the front. I was like, hey man, look, I'm looking for a place to drop in. I'll be here for a month or whatever. And he goes, oh yeah, cool man, yeah, we do classes here, this and that time. And I'm like, yeah, sweet, can I come in tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, you could, but I just want to let you know that we're a very exclusive team. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, what does that mean? And he goes, well look, you can come in tomorrow, but you might not be able to train. And I'm like, okay, but why not? And he goes, if the coach doesn't like you, he's just not going to let you train. And I'm like, okay, cool, but he's like, but you should come. And I'm like, okay, and how much is that going to be? He goes, well, it'll be 20 euros per session. And I'm like, man, I'm going to be here for a month.
Whoa,
That's a lot of money.
a lot.
And I was like, can I pay by the week or the month and stuff? He's like, no, for you it's going to be per session. And then if the coach likes you, you get to train tomorrow. And if not, you can then watch and then come another day until he feels like you're a lot, he likes you enough to let you train. And I was like,
look, okay, man, just tell me how many dicks I got to suck. I'll do it.
and I was just like, okay, you clearly don't want me to train here. So I'm just
so
fine.
weird.
But it was really passive aggressive because it's but you should still come tomorrow. And I was like, okay, man, I get it, whatever. Same day, I go to a different gym, the other gym in that town. There was only two. Man, I walk in, everyone's super friendly. Hey, mate, what's up? How you going? I was trying to speak a little, I don't speak French, but no, I feel like when you're in someone's country, you should at least say hello, how are you? And then they pick up your accent, they realize you're not from there, and they can change. Anyone's in that area, everyone spoke really good English and Spanish anyway, so it wasn't a problem. So man, I went in and I asked, and they're like, yeah, man, yeah, look, you got your gear with you, you can do a class. And I said, yeah, sweet. So I did a class, got along really well with everyone.
Did you ask them about the other gym?
I did. So after a while, because I didn't want to come in
So they accepted you started training there for a couple of weeks or something, and then
yeah. So I was there for about a month training.
Right, and how much was that in comparison?
They did it for free.
Fuck off, really?
Yeah, so the owner
sick.
was this really friendly purple belt under what's his name, Clark Gracie.
Oh, cool.
And he was. I mean, I remember that because he was like, "You look like Clark Gracie," and I was like, "Yeah, but I don't roll like him." You could say I roll like him; it'll be cool. But you know, he's friendliest bunch of people, right? And like he was, they did go out of the way. They would teach him French. And then they'll go out of the way and be like, "Did you understand what we just did?" And I'm like, "I don't really speak French, but I could see what you're doing." So, you know, I found that it was actually better for my learning because I was thinking like, because I couldn't understand what was happening so much. I was looking at what they were doing and I was like, "Oh, okay." You sort of pay more attention to what you're looking at instead of trying to, you know.
And I think because you're a brown belt, you've been training for so long, you understand all the basic concepts.
Yeah, exactly.
You go, "Oh, okay, so this position we're learning here is similar to something else I've already done."
Yeah.
Or, "Oh, I've seen this before, but a different variation."
Exactly right.
It'd be very difficult for like a white belt day one to learn in a different language, but for someone like yourself, you're like, "Yeah, I got that."
What do they call hip escapes in French?
Something with baguette. I can't.
The shrimp.
Because we got like Virginie, right? Girl at the gym who's French and super gullible, right? Virginie's super gullible. So next time you're teaching, Andres teaches some classes at the gym, by the way. So if she's ever in one of your Spanish,
Fucking hell.
so feel free to mess with Virginia if you want. She's super gullible, and so she's French, and but she never trained jiu-jitsu in France. She only started it here. She's lived in Australia for years, and so in the early days of teaching her, I'm like, and these are hip escapes, or they're also known as shrimp because you kind of look like a shrimp or a prawn when you do it. And I was like, what they call hip escapes in French? She's like, what? And I'm like croissant, because you look like a croissant. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. I'm like, no, of course they don't.
That's funny. Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that people were trying to accommodate for you. I went to Sweden last Christmas, and I went to a gym and they were trying to teach the whole class in English just because I was the only person there. Like out of about 20 people, I was the one person that couldn't speak Swedish. So the guy
They've just swung too far the other way.
Exactly. Swedish people were so accommodating that the whole fucking class turned into English. And then halfway through, he got confused. He's like, "Oh, fuck, I'm going back to Swedish." And then just went back because he his English was good. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't fluent. So he had to chop back. And then at the end, he tried to help me. I'm like, "Man, we're doing a tripod sweep. You don't need to, you don't need to do this, my guy."
Mate, the Swedish, the Scandinavian, Nordic sort of countries. I include Germany in there, although it's not sort of part of it. But in Germany, they taught in Hamburg.
First Israel's part of Europe.
Germany's part of the Scandinavia.
They look the same. What'd you say? Well, they kind of do. No, but they look really good. You guys are good looking. Swedish people. Oh, dude, your girlfriend's Swedish, right? She's going to be listening. She's like, "Yeah, real good looking."
No, she doesn't listen to this.
She doesn't listen.
Nah, fuck
so, man, they in Hamburg, for example, I went in and I think they always just teach all the classes in English.
Well,
I was going to ask that. Yeah,
Germany's known for Europe as a whole, right? Is known as people speaking really good English, but I don't think I've ever met a German who doesn't speak flawless English. Even
they learn it in school at the age of 5 or whatever.
Even one of Renata's friend's dad, so a very close family friend of Renata in Brazil. Yeah. So he's of an older generation, and even he's just flawless English, right? It's some new thing. I don't think I've ever met a German who doesn't speak impeccable English.
Yeah, anyone it's the same in Scandinavia. Anyone under the age of 40 is almost guaranteed to be fluent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Older than 40, it's hit or miss because they didn't start the school education program where it's English is really, really important. It's just as important as learning Swedish to them in their school system. So I wanted to ask, you went to, in all these gyms across Europe, you went to 12 different gyms, give or take. Yeah. How many of them taught in English, regardless of you being there, in your opinion?
Right. So in Portugal, so it was in Portugal, again, we'll say Israel, we'll put it as... No, in Israel, they wouldn't do it in English, but they would, they would pair me up with someone who speaks English and be like, "Hey, man, you make sure you explain it to him."
Yeah, nice.
Or the coach will come to me specifically and be like, "Hey, man, did you understand what I was saying? Did you get it?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah, roughly, So, everyone was pretty accommodating.
Was there any gym that was like, fuck it, you're on your own if you don't understand, or maybe the coach you didn't have anyone in the class who spoke English?
No, man, not really. Everyone was pretty good. And I think nowadays everyone speaks English.
Yeah, it's crazy, hey?
Even in Hamburg, the coach was actually Brazilian.
Yeah, right.
And he was like, he knew that I spoke Spanish, so he would come and speak in Spanish, and then like he would teach a class.
Because they have the same
English
language,
like,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Still about 70%.
Yeah.
70% crossover.
Yeah.
It is very similar. Man,
It's funny. People who would natively speak those two languages, or like one of those languages, say they're very similar, which don't get me wrong, they are similar. But like people just assume that, oh, you speak Spanish, so you can speak or understand Portuguese. And I think for, native speakers, to some degree, it's like that. But me as someone who speaks Portuguese as a second language, man, Spanish for me, I got nothing. Like, I can't understand anything. Like, I get the similarities, but it's not like I can default understand Spanish because I speak Portuguese.
It wouldn't take you long.
It probably wouldn't take me long to learn it, but yeah, they're similar, but they're
here's
pretty
a funny
different.
story with the language thing, right? Like I was in Italy for a wedding in the south of Italy, and one of my best mates from Sydney was down at the wedding as well. And then like we went for lunch, and like Italian and Spanish again. You can get the general idea of what's happening, and if you go into the details, that's where it can get a little bit confusing, right? And we're sitting at the table, and we're ordering some food and whatnot, and then one of us like orders me and my other mate, like we saw like an entrecote on the menu, and then we're like, oh, entrecote, yeah, I'll get an entrecote, and like it was like a entrecote of fish, right? But then we're like, oh yeah, we didn't get that part. So we're like, yeah, okay, we get it medium, like medium rare. And all the while we're doing it all in Italian, right? And we're like, yeah, medium. And like, man, the waiter just like looked at us and went, see. He was just like, I'm not even going to go into
Oh my God, that's so funny.
And then we got the
so
fish.
you thought it was like beef or something, right? Yeah, right.
And then we got the fish, and then me and my mate looked at each other and we're like, is yours medium, bro?
Was it medium?
No, but it was funny because like the look
And then
of
you
the
complain,
waiter-
excuse me, this is overcooked.
Yeah, my fish is overcooked. Yeah, it was pretty funny. So no, like everyone was pretty accommodating. I think.
So I want to go back though to the two French gyms. So So once you had sort of been at the gym that let you train, and you kind of like, what's the deal with that other gym?
Yeah.
So what was the
man? I asked him. I was like, hey man, so what's the story with I didn't say that. I was like, oh, so I went to this other place and I didn't feel. Because man, mind you, these guys were so welcoming, like so friendly, like
a little too nice. You're like,
no, they were great. Like it's one of the friendliest bunch of people I've met in my life, man. Seriously, like the owner was this purple belt who was just like young guy, like about our age. And, at some point I was like, hey, man, like, how much is it for the month or the classes? And he's like, bro, you good? Don't worry about it. We just want you to have a good time. They're like, go to this restaurant or like visit this beach. And like, they'll go out of the way. My girlfriend actually got sick when we were there. And one of the girls at the gym, the coach, the head instructor was a lady. And she's like, oh, yeah, look, I'll give you my doctor's number so she can go. And, like they were really, really nice. And
I'll
then
drop off the chicken soup later.
and then, I asked them, I was kind of like, what's up with, I went to this other place and they were not as friendly. And they're like, oh, yeah, they just feel like they're a little bit too cool.
Yeah, a bit elitist.
They didn't really say anything bad about the other gym. They just kind of said, look, it's just how they are, whatever, which even made them look even cooler. You know what I mean? Because they're not really bad-mouthing anyone. They're just like, yeah, whatever, it's just their style. But yeah, I think the other one was just they felt a little bit like elite, right? But I was kind of like, well, how elite are you really? Because
I've never heard of any of you. Yeah.
And if we're going to talk about like elite and like levels and stuff, like you got Adam, who used to be like Mary Galley's training partner or something like that.
Not really his training partner. Like we trained a couple of times, but I mean we used to be from the same team.
Yeah, but you trained at a gym where the level was as high as it gets.
Trained with like
Bernardo Ferry.
Yeah, like I often explain it as at the time that I was there was, would have. At that period of time, it would have been equivalent to the Danaher Death Squad.
Yeah,
it was, You know, I mean, it's obviously still a really high level gym, but you know, now, and it's not even the death squad anymore. Now it's the B team and New Wave, and in another 5-10 years, and Atos, right?
BC team and Old Wave.
Why when I make a cringe joke, are you like cricket? So you make the crappest joke, and you're like, chuckle.
That was funny. I want to clip that.
But yeah.
But you could claim, be like, oh, you're elite team or whatever, but it's like, it's not really about that, right? Like that's, and even those guys like a B team, they let people come in and train and like,
they do open mats and shit.
I don't know. I just felt like it was, whatever. It was weird.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, then like what other gyms? Like there was one in Portugal where it was really weird, man. Like I went there and I was like, oh, like how much, I always ask how much for a drop in because I'm not just expecting to get stuff for free. And most of the time they're like, oh, how long you been training? Let's, brown belt. They're like, oh, mate, just drop in for a class. It's fine.
Fuck, that's sick.
It's really nice. Like not always, but sometimes. And then this guy in Portugal, I think he felt like I was trying to rip him off. So I went in and I did a class and it happened to be a fundamentals class. It was like me, a purple belt, really good purple belt, teaching the class, and then like 5 white belts, and then we rolled, and it was like I was kind of like teaching them stuff, right? So I feel like I was adding value to the class, and then after the class, I'm like, okay, guys, so what do I pay and whatnot? And I think the guy who's running the class goes, oh man, the coach is not here. Like if you mind waiting, and I was like, oh, I gotta go, and he's like, man, it's fine, you can drop in whenever you want again and whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'm coming back tomorrow. So I just left. Then I came back the next day. And the coach, like the not head coach, but like the I guess second in command, you could say, because the owner of the gym was away, like looked at me like I walked in. I was like, oh hey mate, what's up? And he looked at me with his face as if like I'd done something to him. And I was like, oh. And he goes, all right man, so what's the deal with you? Are you paying or what? And I was like, yeah, I offered to pay when I got here, but then your mate said, I think it was a miscommunication problem. And then he came in and he chatted me for like 2 drop-in sessions where the previous day. It was only 15 euros, but, I was kind of like in the class teaching part of the class actually to the white belts, and then I was like, well, it's I don't mind paying for the other one where it was like the 6:30 class, like the PM, like the night one where all, there was like a sort of
like an advanced class where
But like for fundamentals, I was kind of like, this is kind of shit, but I didn't mind it. I just paid for it, and I was like, I'm just not coming back here.
Sorry, were it 15 euros per session?
Per session, yeah.
Fuck, that's pretty expensive, man. As a
drop-in is pretty expensive in Europe.
Yeah.
And all gym drop-in is really expensive.
Well, because you want to discourage that. Just want to get people,
that's right.
But whereas I was in Vienna at a Roger Gracie one, man, like friendliest bunch of dudes as well. And then they literally just went, like I met the coach, there was like sort of like the guy teaching the class, and then the gym owner, who's a bit of an older guy. Man, he comes in, he's like, hey, mate, what's up? How long you been here for? And I was like, oh, I'm going to be here for 3 days. I might train 2 days. And he goes, and I go, how much do I pay you in advance or after or whatever? And he goes, oh, man, 2 days is fine. Just come in, have a good time. And, I hope you have a good time. And I was like, oh, awesome, man. That's
so
really
nice.
Really cool. And I feel like with him, he would have done the same whether I was brown or what. Like he was just like, oh, you're dropping in for a visit.
Yeah, 100%.
Have a good time. Man, that group was like that group was so friendly that at the end of class they're like, man, we're going to Belgium for a seminar with Lachlan Giles and so you should join. And I was like, man, I just met you guys. How cool is this? Sick. Yeah, you get all sorts of
Well, I think like from experience, limited experience, and you'd be able to talk to this a lot more, and particularly after your last 12 months in Europe. Jiu-jitsu is such an icebreaker. Like it's such like a community thing. Like you can drop in fucking almost anywhere, with the exception of a couple of things you're pointing out. And in general, people, like it's an immediate bond. Like after you have a role with someone or whatever, it's like, you've known them for years because you have so much in common. And because of, breaking down those physical barriers even, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I slightly disagree with that a little bit.
Sure.
I think. Like,
go for it.
I get the point, but I guess it depends, how you, like what purpose jiu-jitsu is serving in your life. I think if you're definitely pursuing it from a more competitive point of view, I don't know if there's definitely like people can be as nice as they want to be, but if you're competitive with your jiu-jitsu, there is definitely that little bit of you're rolling with someone new and you want to win, right? Even if it's a friendly roll, you want to win.
Yeah,
and
I've had that experience
if it hasn't happened to me in a long time, not because I'm, the best in the world, because I'm obviously not, but I just mean as in I'm a higher belt now, so the odds of getting smashed is often lower. But when I was a lower belt, if a visitor came in or whatever and they got the better of me, like the competitor in me was like, well, fuck this dude, and like, okay, obviously it's not like I'm saying I don't like this person, but you know what I mean? It's not like I'm instantly all chummy and best friends with this dude who just beat the shit out of me when I wanted to win. It'd be like anything, you lose to someone in a competition. Doesn't mean you don't like them, but you got things in common, but there's definitely a little bit of a, I agree
with that. I agree with that. When I went to the gym in Sweden, I was a brand new blue belt at the time, but I was like super competitive. And I still am.
But I was about to say,
super fucking competitive.
I mean, you've come so far from brand new blue belt to 0 stripe blue belt.
Oh, yes. Who needs stripes, man? Fuck stripes.
Yeah.
Stripes are just tape, bro.
Yes, it's just
Does
tape.
IBJJF recognize stripes? What are you talking about? I don't want your stripes. Keep your fucking stripes. Fuck you.
It's like, I've been using tape since I was in kindergarten.
Yeah, bro.
I outgrew that shit years ago.
Tape my belt, tape my fingers, whatever. Anyway, so whatever. There was this brown belt there. Got the better of him in the roll. Fucking random ass Australian blue belt just comes out of nowhere. He might have been having an off day, whatever. I'm not going to judge him off one fucking roll. He did not like it. Like,
oh, dude, if I was a brown belt and a visiting blue belt got the better of me, I would be pissed.
And there was like a peanut gallery going on as well. Like people were watching us, and like his training partners at my rank were watching us, and like all like these people were sitting on like a couple girls, couple guys. Like I can see their faces, like and. Man, I don't think he was happy.
Like, I wouldn't be pissed at the person. I mean, I guess they would, like, by default, you have to blame someone. But really, like, you've got no one to blame but yourself. But obviously, you're going to project that onto, like, and if they were coming back the next day, I would be like, I'm going to beat the fucking shit out
I think
of
he just didn't expect it.
The competitor in me.
Yeah.
Right?
I think I just caught him off guard because he was, like, about my age, about my size. He was strong. And I think I just caught him off guard. Yeah. And got him in a bad position, got his back, and
But it's funny, like some of those sort of unspoken rules, like one of my students who's a blue belt was recently at a different gym, just training where the head instructor's like a brown belt, and he had the brown, because he kind of before he told me this story, he was like, oh man, is so-and-so like that good? Like, what do you reckon? And I was like, neither here nor there, whatever. And he was like, oh, because I was rolling with him and, I had him in a fully locked up DAS choke, and then, I kind of looked around and all these students were watching and everything, and I was just kind of like, so I just kind of let it go. And then after the roll, he was like, because I kind of didn't want to. And all these students were like, oh, that was close. That was a close roll. And I was kind of like, yeah, super close, and there's definitely that little bit of I don't know. I definitely roll different when I'm visiting a gym. If I'm in someone else's gym, I don't know. I feel a bit bad if I'm smoking someone in
Nah, man, I'm Jojo Storm and fuck that. Send the Mad Enforcer after me, boys. Fucking get your best lad. Come on, fuck this. Yeah. I'm not even good, man. I'm just talking a big game. Like,
if I the tactical team.
I don't
fuck
mind,
if I walked into New Wave, I'd get fucking smoked, man. Their white belts would fucking tell me.
I don't mind like putting smash on whoever, like if I'm visiting a gym, but if it's the head instructor, I'm a little bit more like,
don't embarrass him.
I don't want, it's not even that, like, because I'm not, this is just a casual statement, because I'm not some world champion, so it's not like they don't have the chance or ability to smash me, but at least I don't feel like that's the case in my local area. So it's not that I really visit gyms because I'm too busy teaching all the time, but if I were, I'm a bit more,
Well, it is different because you are wearing a black belt, though. You know what I mean? So, like, someone walking in with a blue belt or even a purple belt, and you go in with their black belt, it's, you don't want to undermine them, I suppose. But
Yeah.
I mean, at the same time, like I'm just going to do my own jiu-jitsu.
I was just before we recorded, I was just talking to Lachlan Giles, and you know, I haven't been down to his gym in Melbourne for so long, since like 5-6 years or something, when I was still a brown belt. And you know, every time I speak to him, I'm like, man, I'll try come down soon and visit so we can train. Really, I think I'm just scared of his like blue belts beating me up. So I don't care if Lockie beats me up. You know, I couldn't care less.
Somehow I don't see that.
You know, I
happening,
couldn't care if Lockie's black belts beat me up. You know, there's a very high level competitive gym.
Just make sure you go in on a gi day, like
that's
protect their heels, man. It's not even your fault, Adam. Your heels are just too fucking big, dude. They're like beginner grips on a rock climbing wall. They're like fucking jugs, man. They stick out like half. Like your heel is the size of half of my foot.
If I point my toes to hide my heel, it does nothing.
You're not hiding shit, mate.
There's still such
You can't play Where's Wally with your fucking heels, man. They're sticking out like a bloody sore thumb. They're huge.
I'm like, it's you know those Simpsons episodes where like Sideshow Bob like doesn't just wear clown shoes, he's actually got those big size
Bro,
clown
that is
feet.
100% you. You're a big dude with big fucking heels. You and Eric, easiest fucking heels to grab.
But yeah, you know, back to what you said, I think it definitely depends on your, you know, what purpose jiu-jitsu serves you. Because there's definitely people who, man, there's people who could be a black belt and doesn't phase them at all if a white belt or a blue belt taps them. Like they just love jiu-jitsu and the sport and all the interactions. And if you're that sort of person, then yeah, I agree with what you're saying. There's that instant kind of bond and, you know.
I'm very much like that, man. Like, I mean, I do have a competitive
Is
side.
that why all the white belts are tapping out? It all
Never
checks
happens.
out. Yeah.
I'm rolling, what is that?
Flow rolling, right?
Flow roll.
Flow
Yeah,
roll.
well,
I wasn't
wait,
trying,
just put your thumb here. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I saw quite a funny reel with that was, you know, just titled when a lower belt starts tapping you, and it was like a dude getting caught in a bow and arrow, and like the guy's like, oh yeah, now just so, and then like the guy attacking the bow and arrow doesn't stop, and the guy's like, no, wait, I'm trying to help you. Yeah. Like just starts panicking because he's about to get choked out.
No, like, I mean,
I hate that. Fucking hate it.
I think, you know, like, so for example, during this trip, like my number one priority was do not get injured. Because I was going to be traveling for a year, right?
Yeah.
So when I was in Israel, the guys were like, man, we're going to camp on Saturday. You should come to a competition and compete. And I was like,
yes, lad.
and I was like, man, yeah, that'll be sick. How much of how good a story would that be?
Yeah.
I'll go back to Sydney and then be in the podcast and then you tell the story. No, but I was like, man, that'll be great. You know, it'd be good fun. But it was at the beginning, like right at the start of the trip. Like it was like week 3 of the trip. So I was like, okay, if something happens, I'm basically ruining a year-long trip. So is it worth the risk for me based on, you know?
Did you have insurance or anything, medical insurance over there?
But I mean, I only have 2 knees and, you know,
Yeah.
I didn't want to break one. And,
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, like, so it was not so much about the insurance part, but like, you know, then I get hurt and then we're going to go to the snow after that. So it's like, then you can't go snowboarding and stuff,
Yeah.
right? So it does, you know, so like I will go to gyms and, you know, I didn't get tapped by like white belts and stuff, but like, man, I'll get to put in a really,
So he said,
in
the story's not checking out, Kieren.
I'll get put in a bad situation where, you know, my neck would be compromised, not even from a submission, but like just too much weight on it. And I was like, hey mate, no, let's start, we'll restart, you go on top, but I really don't want to get hurt.
Yeah.
You know, you fast forward back to being here at the gym, and I've been back 6 weeks, and I've been injured twice.
Yeah.
JT hasn't been.
Adam, can you just talk on that for a bit? Why is the gym culture so dangerous?
We've got a pretty severe bro culture in the gym.
It's a boys' club. I've heard it's a boys' club.
Bro
It's
culture.
very
If
toxic.
you don't,
Bro culture.
yeah,
Okay.
you must use the word bro.
Okay, sorry.
Speak. What's up, bro?
Bro club. What's the go?
Well,
with it?
let's wind it back a bit. So, the first injury was what?
No, both of them were my fault.
Yeah,
I have to-
pretty much what I was getting at.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that I got injured by someone. I'm saying that I got injured because of how hard. Like, man, I came back from sort of training every now and again to just training two, some days 3 times a day. Just not going all out in every role, but you know the body takes a toll, and
Yeah,
then
100%.
you're not in good physical shape because
Yeah.
you've been just fooling around for a year. Then I think it was like the second week we did a wrestling class, and then my neck got,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Fucking,
then
the wrestling fucking collar ties on the neck.
exactly.
Man,
And then my knee,
Fucking
like
wrestling.
not popped the ligament, but like
I think I
hurt my
know
knee.
the wrestling class. We both got neck injuries from that.
Yeah.
That's
it was
fucking
with
nuts.
Chris, Chris the Butcher.
Yeah, because I got Chris to take that for some, I can't remember, but I think I had Atlas or my son. I couldn't teach, because usually I would teach that class.
Yeah.
And I think I couldn't make it for some reason. I was like,
And then he went in
because Chris is
No, he's good.
Chris is a blue belt, so he's not like one of the instructors, but he does a lot of wrestling.
Yeah, he does.
And and even if he did minimal amount of wrestling, he still does more wrestling than other
well,
people do in the gym.
Yeah,
so he has
100%.
knowledge to share. So I was like, man, and I remember I said to him, I was like, oh man, just get them to do a couple of wrestling techniques, and then you guys can just roll. And I walked in with like 5 minutes remaining in the class, and you guys are still just wrestling.
Yeah.
Like I was like, well, I didn't mean do a wrestling class. I meant just show a couple of wrestling techniques and then just roll. Like
It was good though. It was good.
I
It's
loved
just,
it. I loved it. I have to say, like after that class, we had a chat, and then we started doing like one-on-ones for like half an hour. I was like, man, like let's come to the gym a little bit earlier before class, and then you teach me some wrestling moves. 'Cause that's probably my weakest point in my game at the time,
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah.
The stand up, and man, like he's got some moves.
Yeah.
He's got some moves.
Yeah, I was like digging through my archive, and I put together a YouTube video, my first comp at Blue Belt. So for some reason I had
Just recently came out that video.
it recently did yesterday from time of recording, so you can check that out on KierenLefebvre.com. No. But in all seriousness, I was looking at the footage, and literally my game plan on the feet, this is in gi, was to bully my opponent just by reefing on them till they pull guard. And it fucking worked, boys. It fucking worked. So who needs stand up? No one needs wrestling. Just bully the fucker. Just shake
rip it, bro.
Literally, I was like the first guy just grabbing him, just fucking reefing him, throwing him around. I did get a single leg takedown, so not that shit. And the second guy did the same thing. I was doing, I don't even know what the fuck I was doing. It was so cringe. It's a year ago. Come a long way. Good stuff. Check it out. YouTube. Link in the
Follow me on
description.
Insta.
Yeah, follow me on Instagram.
So would there be, if you could pick one or two general bits of advice for someone visiting gyms, what would you recommend?
I don't know, man. Like I would say, go in with no expectations. I think, just because if, you come in thinking that, it's going to be a world, like an elite class, and then it's not, like you depending on what you're there for. Like if you're there on a holiday, just adapt. If you're going to go and move overseas, and do a bit of research and find your gym. But like, most of us, like when we're traveling, we're not going to go travel 2 hours to go to a gym in a city. You go, what's the closest one around here, and what's the best out of those that are close, and then you go there. I think just that, man, and just be mindful of injuries, really, because if you're on a holiday, you don't want to ruin the holiday because of one session that you did, right? Like it's a bit silly in my opinion. Well, depending on, but if you're there to just train, then again, different thing.
And just imagine Kieren traveling and training and getting injured with something, and he'd still be like, "Yeah, it was worth it." Yeah. he'll be like,
fucking kicked out.
he'll be like, "I got the tap."
Yeah, I would actually set the frame with the people before rolling. Like, you have a bit of a chat before you start rolling. Oh, so what are you here for? So and so, and then I'd be like, oh yeah, I was out till like 2 a.m. last night with some friends drinking, and then and then people kind of go, this guy's here on holiday, and then how you start rolling. Like I wasn't going all out. I would just get my grips and then start playing, and they're like, oh, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, you feel them out. Yeah,
like some people did still go pretty hard, and I was like, cool, just turn it on. And then I think I puked after one of the classes.
Yes,
because I was just so out of shape, and like we'd been drinking the night before and all that. But yeah, man, I think another thing is like, come in and be upfront with the whole payment thing. Because I think a lot of people assume they'll come in for a freebie and then get out. I think.
What was the average drop in cost? So you said you threw around like 15 euro, you through around 20 euro.
Probably around 20 euros for a drop in.
Fuck,
but
man.
I think
that's crazy. That's only $40.
Yeah, man, it's a lot of money. But I mean, most of the time when I said it up front, I feel like the coaches kind of went, it's all right, man, we can talk about it after class. And then,
Right.
After class, it's,
Like 20 years. Like, oh, I got 5, bro.
no, after class, they'll be like, yeah, man, look, if they like you as a person, I'm assuming that was the criteria.
Yeah.
They'll be like, nah, man, it's so good. We'll see you tomorrow or not.
You just it's like that when you offer someone help. Hey man, you need a hand, and they're like, yeah, and you're like, oh. It's like an empty gesture. Wasn't expecting you to say yes.
No, like I would always bring in some cash and all that. And
did you contact the gyms beforehand, or did you just rock up?
Good
That's a
question.
good one, yeah. So, so one of the things that happened in Portugal was that I didn't send him an email or something beforehand, and I think that was part of what got the other guy angry. He's like, "Oh, you could have texted or you could have called," and I'm like, "Yeah,
could have, bro.
but I'm here asking before, like, it's not like I rocked up to the mat, put on my gear, and stepped on the mat, right? It's like, who wants to fucking fight? You know what I mean? Like, no, I just kind of went, hey man, you guys take visitors and all that. I would say, do text people. I think some people don't really mind it. I had a bit of a mixed back with that. Some people were like, oh, is the number on the, like passive aggressive being like, oh, is the number on the website? And I'm like, yeah, there's a number on the website. They're like, oh yeah, well next time just please text. I mean, I guess some owners would probably like to be there when there's a visitor to avoid, issues or, someone spazzing out and hurting people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, do text and ask and don't take for granted that you get stuff for free. I reckon that's, the main things. And, that should get you pretty far. I had some pretty good experiences except for one place. And
was that the place that didn't let you train, or was there? Was that the
other one? Yeah, where they were like, "Oh, you're trying to not pay and all that." And I was like, I mean, and it wasn't a bad experience. It's just that I feel like it's just miscommunication. And man, on his defense, I think the owner was away and he was taking care of business. So like, again, it's like if you're away and I'm taking care of like classes and stuff, and someone comes in, I'll be like, well, man, I'm responsible for. If someone comes in and there's money missing from, quote unquote the till, like, you're making my life a little bit harder right now. But, I think it wasn't anything personal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Did you ever have anyone like try and mat and force you? Like fucking come at you? That vibe?
Yeah, there was another guy in a gym in Spain where he was kind of like the sort of golden boy. Like he goes to every competition and like travels, for hours to go, Kieren's smiling. He's like, oh, you're talking about me. Spanish version of me.
Golden boy. I wonder what that's like.
And he was very good and technical. And, he was like tapping everyone out and all that. Mind you, he was a blue belt, like a good one, but, he was a blue belt. So he was making silly mistakes. And, like I went in and I was just sort of having a good time, having fun. And then, he kind of turned it up and I was just like, whatever, man, I'll let you take my back and get out, and I'll let you pull me a mount and get out, and then I'll put you a mount. And I was just like...
So it can't be that good if you get now.
And I was just like, it was sort of right. And then at some point he kind of realized that I was not trying to beat him up.
Yeah.
And he kind of stopped trying to... Not that he could have beat me up, but, like the whole team was like at some point like watching the roll.
Yeah,
it was like after class. And, everyone's like, oh, take his back, take his heel now. And I was like, yeah, whatever, mate. But that was probably the only time. For the rest of it was that's it. I think that was the only time.
Yeah, that's good.
I do have to say though, that gym, that was in Madrid. It was a checkmate gym. Absolute legends, man. Like everyone's so open, so friendly. The coach really high level, super friendly guy. I even wanted to do a private with him, but then I ran out of time. I couldn't do it. And funny with that one, like I went in and people were like, so where are you from? And they like kept speaking to me in English. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking to me in English, mate? Like what's going on? And they're like, oh, we thought you like Danish or something. I was like, what? It's like, what are you?
You're tan as fuck, bro.
Like, what's going on here? Like,
sick tan.
They're like, yeah, you have a bit of an accent. I'm like, fuck, what?
Oh, that's so good.
Pretty funny, yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So even if you're not looking for a gym to visit while traveling, sounds like that gym you just need some friends.
Yeah.
Hey, you're here to train? No, just
if you're lonely, you're in Madrid.
Some friends. I've heard you guys are really nice.
Spring lunch. Fuck me. That's funny.
This is completely unrelated to what we're talking about, but
that's not like you.
Yeah, but it's in my mind, so I want to ask for clarification. Just when Julia, your fiance, came up, or like before, not came up, like here.
Yeah, we get it.
when she was mentioned, so we did last episode the like healthy
snacks,
healthy snacks, and then there was a miscommunication as to my ranking. You sent me the screenshot.
Yes.
And was that clarified, or does Julia still think I'm an asshole?
No, I dug you out of that. So basically, if you didn't listen to the episode, we had 5 treats and we ranked them in our order of preference from 1 to 5. And I sent a message to Julia and I was like, Adam ranked your treat 2 out of 5. But didn't clarify that it was
the second best treat.
The second best out of 5. So it was ranked number 2. So it came in second. And she read that as it's 2 out of 5 stars or whatever. It's just like, fuck that guy. He's an asshole.
Fucking asshole.
He's not fucking, you can fuck off.
And that's just the screenshot Kieren sent me. And I'm like, God damn it. I thought Julia liked me. Now she thinks I'm an asshole.
No, that's funny. I did clarify it. No, it's 2. You came second. You came in second. 2 out of 5.
Was she all right with that?
Yeah, I didn't tell her I ranked it like 3rd or 4th though. Look, babe, they're all right, but fuck, you can do better. Not your best work.
So how's this, Andre? So we met. So these were the treats, right? So there was essentially 3 different types of protein balls, which you can imagine are combinations of like oats, peanut butter, chocolate chips, protein powder, and that. There was these like overnight oats that were like chocolatey, proteiny, and then like the lamest snack of all, which was just a wrap, like wrap bread with peanut butter and honey.
Yeah, like a burrito.
Yes.
That's what we call it.
Fucking burrito.
That's what we call it in Mexico. I mean, Venezuela, whatever, mate.
Oh, Mexican.
Whatever you want to call it.
Sort of. A tortilla. A tortilla. Right? With just peanut butter and honey. That was what Kieren ranked as number 1.
Can't knock it, bro.
What?
I was like, you got like chocolatey fucking peanut butter things.
Treats.
You've essentially got like protein Reese's Pieces here, and he's like, nah, bruh. He's like wrap bread with, peanut butter and honey.
I think they call that the gringo burritos.
The gringo
burrito. Call me gringo because that shit was lit. It was fucking fire, man. And I stand by my rating. I stand by it adamantly. I dream about that sandwich. That's good.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
it was
good
stuff. I had something else, but no, I did. Yeah. So the other question. So we coming towards the end of the episode, but so we didn't really talk about this at all, but you're very, very savvy at business. You've run your own businesses and, investing and all sorts of things. You had a restaurant and, so you're very knowledgeable, savvy. You do business consulting for other businesses. How do you find because there's a bit of a disconnect, right, with jiu-jitsu gyms and the culture of jiu-jitsu and the camaraderie that comes with jiu-jitsu. But then at the end of the day, it is a business, right? The jiu-jitsu, the gym owner has bills to pay. They've got rent to, so there can be a bit of a disconnect between it being like, hey man, this is more than a business transaction because there's so much rapport built, but it also is still a business. You definitely have gyms that go really far, to one way where it's super strict business wise, and it can be like, I not mentioning any names, but I'll give you an example. So I'm definitely way more chill with running the business. I think that's something we offer that is different. It's actually a decision of mine, not just being shit at running the business. So for example, if someone broke their leg, right, whether it happened in class or not, I'm pretty much just going to be like, oh, fuck, man, like I'm just going to pause your membership. I'm not going to hit you with that whole cancellation fee and all this sort of stuff. Like, you broke your leg, that's horrible. You got bigger problems than, the last thing I want to do is add another problem that you have to pay some membership. Whereas I know of another gym where this person broke their leg not in jiu-jitsu, but broke their leg so severely that it was literally day by day, not sure if it was going to have to be amputated, right? Like,
my God.
Severe injury.
Was it like a car crash or something? Or
yes, like, I mean, yeah, I don't. Heel hooks.
Fuck, dude. Savage.
And yeah, you know, and he's still getting hit with the gym wouldn't do any, oh no, in your contract, it's this. And it wasn't even like it's a massive gym, so you're just dealing with a receptionist who's just doing their job. It was still a gym where you're dealing with the gym owner / head instructor.
Wow.
And they're still doing that. And so anyway, there's gyms that go that way. You know, there's gyms that are a bit more casual. Your opinion as someone who has taught jiu-jitsu classes, has owned multiple businesses, who is a brown belt, so you're very aware of the culture of gyms. You've visited 12 different gyms, so you've been exposed to mass jiu-jitsu culture. I mean, what do you feel about, what could you talk about that sort of disconnect between the business and the culture of jiu-jitsu?
Man, I think that happens a lot in any kind of business from the get-go, right? Like it's you have business owners who are business owners, and then you have, you know, jiu-jitsu coaches that just want to have a gym and have a good time, right? So there's nothing wrong with either or. It's just that it's the attitude that you show to your students or customers, whatever you want to call them, will set the frame for the whole interaction. So I mean, there has to be rules. And for example, you know, this guy who broke his leg, man, it sucks. Yes, he broke his leg. That's, you know, it's really terrible. But, you know, it would be nice. Like, it's a nice to have if the coach goes, you know what, man, I'm going to pass your membership because you have a lot of trouble. But he did sign a contract, right? So, yeah, I mean, it sounds really, and it's one of those, right? Where, man, like, you did sign a contract, but it then is up to the coach to say, look, I'm going to be a nice guy and I'm doing this out of goodwill, and I'll stop your membership. But he doesn't really have to do it, right?
No, he doesn't have to, right? Yeah,
you know, it seems like, man, that's actually, I mean, I would personally just like stop the payments because I'm like, man, you're going to lose your leg. You know what I mean? That's terrible. But, you know, when you look at it from an objective point of view with no emotion at it, you go, oh, look, you signed a piece of paper. And sadly enough, like I've been
What are you chuckling?
I was just thinking in my mind, surely he should get a discount if he rocks up with one leg.
20%.
Can I have 25% off?
Get 20% off at least.
25% of my body. So
oh fuck me.
so man, like I mean, I've been on both ends of that, right? Where I've signed contracts that end up being, you know, a bad deal, and I have not once been let off the hook. I have not. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, man, this is terrible, and this person's one. But you know, like I was like growing up into, you know, the person I am today, I go, well, man, I look back and I was angry and I was like, man, you could help me, but it's like, well, it's not their problem really. It's my problem. So, you know, I have to deal with it in some way. Does that talk about the quality of you know, as a human being of that person? Well, that's questionable. I think so.
So
what
advice would you give to, you know, a jiu-jitsu gym owner who is maybe struggling with walking this line of, fuck man, I've got a business to run, but I also don't want to compromise, you know, the whole, my relationships and
culture,
the culture of, you know,
man, I do
because one thing I always say, I've said so many times is, yes, I understand there's rapport and all those things, but it is a business transaction.
Yeah.
But I say that in terms of that the responsibility is on the gym owner. So because this culture of, you know, gyms owning their students and you can't go train somewhere else.
Or like getting your students to clean the mats and shit like that.
Yeah, and all that bullshit. It's like, man, no, it's the opposite. You owe your students.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I've never ever trained at a gym where you don't pay in advance. You know, so you pay in advance. So it's actually, I actually owe you. I'm the gym owner. You've already paid me, and I now owe you like the service of teaching you jiu-jitsu or providing you somewhere to train or whatever it is. Yeah. So yes, it is a business transaction. So I say that in terms of, it's my responsibility to offer a good service and a good product. And if I don't, they're welcome to go somewhere else. If I had a restaurant and my food was shit, you know, they're free to go eat somewhere else. But obviously I then also value the positive culture that comes with our gym and the way that, I don't know, just the little things, right, of cancelling someone's membership if they break a leg, giving them 20% off if they lose a leg. Right? all these.
I agree. Look, I think
advice for someone who's maybe having it a hard time walking that line.
And man, believe it or not, this is something that I believe happens in any kind of business, whether you with your customers or with your team, with your staff, right?
Yeah.
I think preempting the rules of the game on the first week or day or whatever, like having a clear onboarding process and saying, look, this is what we do, this is how we do it, these are the rules. If this happens, then this happens. And if, X means Y, et cetera, et cetera. And then people know what to expect. And then that sets the frame for the interaction. And then if you want to go one step ahead, which is I think what particularly with you, Adam, separates you from a lot of gyms that I've trained at, is that you're there for us on and off the mats. Like you're a good dude. Like it's good to hang out with you. It's fun.
Yeah, which reminds me, people stop calling me. My students just call me. Nah, I'm joking.
And you can then go and say, look, yeah, you not even remind them, but you can just be like, they know that they've signed something that says, look, if you break a leg, I don't have to stop your membership. But then you can send a message, say, hey, mate, look, I know you're going through a lot of trouble. I'm going to do this for you. And I think that clears up all the wrong it sets the right expectation, because it's about setting expectations, right? I had a lot of issues with the staff I had at the restaurant, because at first when we started, we're all mates and all that, and then there was a lot of sort of gray areas, and then not until we had everything on paper, and then said, look, this is what's going to be. You need to sign that. Here's your onboarding process. This is how we do things. This is what's expected from you. This is what you can expect from me.
Yeah, and it's unfair to them if you don't do that.
Yeah, exactly, because then you're going, like. I've trained at gyms where, it's like, yeah, we're all mates, we're all family and so. And then, when you need something, that's not their problem. But when they need something, you have to be there. So
yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing I hate as well, right? Like, so I feel that I really do and try to have that whole, I'll be there for you outside of this business agreement, but like you're also there for me. And a lot of gyms preach that, but yeah, then they're not there for you. So hang on, I'll give you, so for example, this is what makes this story, the broken leg story, even worse, in my opinion, because during lockdowns in Australia, there were pretty much 3 different approaches that gyms took, right? There was the approach that me, and I don't know of any other gyms around this area who took this approach, that was, we completely changed our business model. We essentially said, look guys, we're now, and because this was, remember back when we're closed, you're not allowed to have any contact to anything. We were like, we've essentially changed our business model to, we're now an online gym, right? And we're doing Zoom classes as well as sending technique videos through WhatsApp. And then when that turned into being able to work out outdoors, we did circuit training at the park and whatever. And we essentially said to our members, if you would like to continue paying your membership, awesome, appreciated, no obligation. If you'd like to help a little bit, but you can pay half price, if you can't afford, because lots of people lost their jobs too. It's like, if you can't afford to pay anything, you don't have to pay anything. You're still part of the team, right? And you still can do all the online classes and everything. And, once the gym reopens, you can come back and train for free until you get another job. And it was, that's what we did, right? Other gyms took an approach where they did, okay, so let's say lockdown lasts for 3 months. For that 3 months, we're going to charge you 50% membership rate. And then for the 3 months after opening, we'll charge you 50% membership rate. So we can have still a stream of income.
That makes sense. That balances out.
Which was a good option. But then there were plenty of gyms who just went, radio silence and just kept charging their students full membership and did nothing about it, offered no service and, nothing in exchange for that money, didn't even talk about it.
Yep, didn't even post on Instagram, literally went on a holiday. Yeah.
So this broken leg one, this person was at a gym that did the latter, right? Did the radio silence treatment. So this person was there for their gym during lockdown, continued to pay a full membership during lockdown, supported them when they needed help. But all of a sudden, when they've broken their leg and are potentially going to have it amputated, and they're still, oh no, well, you can't pause or cancel your membership. Like, you know, like that's fucking bullshit. So I think I really try to do that. I'm there for you outside of it. You know, I remember I did multiple, this person who broke their leg doesn't even train at my gym. And when they finally got out of hospital, I delivered them like a pre-made meal box of food and stuff because they couldn't get up, couldn't cook, was in a wheelchair. And, you know, I remember, you know, trying to deliver food to students who were having to isolate with COVID and all this sort of stuff. So I try to be there for them, and, you know, if they're there for me, that's cool too. But yeah, a lot of gyms preach that. And then when you do need help from your gym and like then it's just, hey, business
this is
business.
a business, bro. This ain't a charity. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
I've heard that so many times.
And it's even worse when you've already done something for your gym. You know, like, I mean, like if you've already supported them during lockdown or whatever, and then you need a little bit of help. I'm not saying as in asking for handouts, but something kind of like that. And they're like, no.
But I do get what Andres is saying in terms of establishing the rules, right? Establishing like how we're going to operate, the guidelines, and this is the left and right of arc, if you will. These are the bright lines. And it is in a lot of businesses, even in my business, being a freelance videographer. Like in the early days, I didn't have contracts and like really strict contracts and scope of work agreements, and people take the fucking piss. Yeah. People take the piss and they take advantage of you just because you don't have, if it's not written, what you think is the unspoken agreement and what they think is the unspoken agreement, two different fucking things. Completely, so you will always get yourself taken advantage of, and people will always try and get as much value as they can out of you for free without written contracts. It's different. Well, it's not different, but there's a different flavor on it when it is a relationship like student and coach though, because you're right. It's so much more than like a transaction, but it's difficult to walk that line between, on one hand, you're a business, this is a transaction, this is the expectations, so that people can't take the piss and take advantage of you. And on the other hand, we're still a community, I'm still here for you and everything like that. And I think that you walk that line very, very well. And I think you've, you do it really well. If anything, you could probably lean more toward, demanding a bit more from your students in terms of the business side.
Yeah, probably.
If anything, but I mean, if you were going to have to lean one way, you could argue in this business, it might be better to lean toward the community, because in the long run, that will tend better toward growth.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, that's what's more important, Exactly. Like sometimes people, obviously there's things business-wise I could do better. Like I don't have a degree in business or whatever.
Overrated, bro.
Yeah. So there's obviously business-wise things I could do better, but there's also, sometimes I'll have people try to give me advice about the business to not just make the business more successful or whatever, but to make more money, but almost it's not in a immoral way, not like ripping people off or scamming people, but in a way that is just kind of, counter to the culture of the gym, and, and that just leaves me going, but like, I get it. There's things that could be done better, but I didn't get into jiu-jitsu and owning a gym just to make money. I get that money needs to be made because I've got bills to pay, but if I chose the wrong business if I wanted to get rich, right? Like I would have gone into finance or something.
It's money to be made everywhere.
Yeah, and
I like that.
This guy. That's a quote from Andres.
But I don't know. I'm just not into that side of it.
I think, man, like in business, like in jiu-jitsu, like in everything else, right? Like it's a learning curve. So, firstly, I would say things will change as time goes by, right? Like, you might find yourself at a point where, you have 3 instructors working for you full time, and then you're sort of not there anymore. And then how do you make sure that the culture stays like you wanted it to be, right? Like how do you find the glue that helps, all the different sort of ideas stick together? And because, you might say, I'm going to go on a holiday for a month or 2 months, and then my guys are running the gym, and you trust them, right? Because, otherwise you wouldn't have them there. But then the fact that you trust them doesn't mean that they think the same as you do, although they might be similar, and they don't live inside of your head, right? So, there will be moments when, something happens and then they go, oh no. Well, a good example would be probably this guy in Lisbon, right? The one I was talking before, like in Portugal, where he kind of got angry.
Oh yeah, of course.
It's like, well, maybe they didn't, like maybe they did have very strict rules around that, and he was just sort of following on that, and he took it to heart. You know what I mean? But then there was not a little line saying like, but just
your discretion. Yeah.
Would you like an
discretion, you know what I mean?
analogy? Would you like me to use an analogy?
Please do. Yeah.
So, because I agree with that, obviously, and that's why I don't have any harsh feelings towards gyms or whatever, that big gyms that have these really strict contracts and they don't budge or whatever. Because when it's like, if you've got multiple gyms that you own and you're dealing with receptionists and whatever, like obviously you have to put the line somewhere. So that's kind of part of the growth of a business. But for me, if I'm not there and I've got, let's say, a few gyms, or not even a few gyms, just the one gym and a few instructors and whatever, the approach that I like to have and that I think is crucial to the culture of jiu-jitsu is, if it's a restaurant, I don't want to be there where I'm like, okay, so I'm not there now. Our restaurant is a Subway, and now Kieren's in charge because I'm away. You got to fucking, like, this is the recipe, bro. You can't stray from this at all. Like, it's got to be exactly the same, blah, blah, blah. No, that's not what I think people who teach jiu-jitsu enjoy about it. I more want to be like, okay, I'm away, or this is my restaurant, but you're the head chef. Yeah. So you need to stay within the guidelines of it's an Italian restaurant, but you get to write the menu. Like, you're the head chef. You get to put your own, and I think that's a perfect analogy, because chefs, they do that, right? Like the head chefs, they put their own twist on it. They don't even have to be the owner of it. If you're a head chef of a restaurant, like not a chain, like a head chef of a restaurant, you don't have to own the restaurant, and it's not like the owner often tells you exactly what to cook and the recipe. Like, chefs put their own spin on stuff within the framework of, hey, it's an Italian restaurant. You can't fucking. There
has to be there's something to be said about consistency there, which is, I think, what you're trying to portray. Like, there has to be a certain level of consistency, but there's sort of areas where you have a bit of
exactly. Right? There's got to be the consistency and room for expression.
Yeah. I think, look, a really good example is actually one of our students was in a particular academy in a particular country where they turned up to class and there was only them, like her and the instructor, and she told me something happened. Like, the instructor, who was not the owner at the gym, went, oh, look, I'm feeling a bit sore today, so I'm not going to do, we'll do technique and we're not going to do anything else. So you can just drill by yourself, and just sat on his phone.
Yeah, and I know this exact story.
And it's like, mate, like, you're getting paid.
Yeah. Wait. What? So they rocked up. They're the only student that rocked up. Yeah. And the instructor's like, I can be fucked. There's only one of you. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah. Wow. Opposed to what you should do, which is essentially teach a free private.
Yep.
Well, but
which sucks, but that's how
them's the breaks.
Yeah.
But then, I wonder if that is a lack of, again, setting the expectations, because at some point you're not only setting the expectation for your students or costumers, but also for your team, right?
Yeah.
In this case, I believe there was clearly there was not a clear expectation. And by clear, I mean, here's a video you need to watch. Here's something you need to write. Here's like a checklist of things that you need to understand. Because I can tell you, hey, mate, just be nice to the students.
What does that mean?
What does that mean? What's nice? Like, nice in what way,
Yeah.
So that's removing that sort of vagueness from the expectation side of things, I believe, is key to succeeding in anything that involves communication. I think, just, again, checklist, a video, a document or something, so that people know when they're right to complain about something and when they're not, because then they just refer back to the thing and you go, oh, well, no, that was written there. And, there's still room for argument, because you can have a chat and be like, well, let's work something out. You being a nice guy, you can go, hey, well, you're going through a tough financial situation. Let's see what we can work out. Just going to be like, nah, you're stuck with me forever because, it's not you. But again, if anything, that makes you look even better. Because you're going, well, I'm going outside of the scope of what we signed and what we agreed, and I'm being the nice guy, which you always are anyways. But this is like, you got the proof of,
But it's funny, right? Because when you're in the earlier days of owning the business, you're so much easier to be bent over.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, because when you're first, you're almost like, you know what, bro, I'll pay you to train here. Like, you're so much more willing to, man. And I still get people like, so for the kids, you can do this for the adults as well, but for the kids, we sell a lot of like 10 passes, right? Yeah. And so how it is, you guys probably don't know this, but I'll give you a quick summary. When you enroll kids in like activities, at least here in Australia or at least in Sydney, a lot of the time they're enrolled for the term, right? So let's say my son's swimming lessons, you enroll him for the term.
The school term. Yeah.
Yeah. Or I mean, they more or less function with the school terms, but anyway, it's essentially a 10-week period, right? And so he goes every Friday for 10 weeks. Okay. And you pay the money up front, whatever it is. And, if you miss a week because he's sick, like tough luck, like you lose that class, he goes those 10. I try to go above and beyond. We sell a 10 pass, but it's way more flexible, right? So we go, okay, that 10-week term, it's actually like a 3-month block, right? So it's 12 weeks or a bit more, right? More like 13 weeks. And you can use those 10 classes however you want within that 3 months. You could come 3 days one week, not the next, right? We're super flexible. So it's not like if you miss one Friday, you lost that class, super flexible. And then it says it's valid for 3 months, non-refundable, non-transferable, it's cheaper than paying individual classes. That's why you're buying the 10 in one go. Things that I think are pretty self-explanatory, but it's all in the T's and C's anyway, right? Yet I'll still have parents like email me saying that they bought a 10 pass, they used 7 of the classes, so there's 3 left. The 10 pass expired like 18 months ago, and they're wanting a refund for the 3 classes that weren't used. It's like, no, man, like imagine buying a pizza, eating 7 of the slices and asking for a refund on the 8th one.
I was full, bro.
Like, I mean, it's like, no, like, and sometimes that's an extreme example that I have had those, there's sometimes where I just think it's good for business where sometimes people, my son only used 2 of the classes and he doesn't want to do it anymore, and I'll work out the difference and refund them the 8 classes. I do that sometimes because it's just, for me, it's just good business and I can do it, right? Opposed to just saying, hey, you signed here, tough shit, because there's also a lot to be said for word of mouth, especially in a community sort of business that I'm in. But yeah, man, sometimes you get people really that it boggles my mind. I can't believe you even have the balls to ask for this refund. Like it doesn't even make sense to me.
Here's a thought as well. So a lot of these issues always come from because no one really wants to read the T&Cs, right? Like they're there, but no one
no one ever reads
it. So like there will be things that will come up as frequent as FAQs, and having like a little link on the email where you send in the 10 pass or whatever, it's a way to link to a nicely looking, page that says, FAQs. What happens if so and so and so? Because then it's not like they're reading a contract. It's like, oh, if you have a question, refer to this and then give me a call. And if everything's there, most people will be like, oh yeah, cool. Because I had, for example, I booked a kite surfing lesson in the UK when I was traveling, right? And this guy sends me an invoice and he goes, he puts a couple of things there and then it's like, he says, please read the T&Cs and I had to pay in advance. And then, happens to be that 1 week, that whole 1 week that I was there for, there was no wind. Like the 1 week of the year where there was no wind. And then I texted the guy and I was like, hey, mate, can I get a refund for that? Because, I'm because I was like, I'm going to go back to Sydney. Like, I'm not really from here. And he goes, oh, did you read the T&Cs? And I'm like, what T&Cs? And then he goes, on the invoice, it says read the T&Cs. But man, read the T&Cs was like in tiny little, like font.
Because he obviously doesn't want you to read them.
Yeah. So so it's like, well, if you're sending me T&Cs, and you don't want me to read them, it's not like you're ripping me off because it's my responsibility to go and check them. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you really want me to read them, you have a no refund policy, just put it up front, just no refunds. And then more information, click here, and then there's a page. Because even to find, because then I went, I was like, okay, maybe he did. And I was like, let's take responsibility for this and have a look. Man, for me to find the T&Cs, I spent like 15 minutes clicking through different links and things. So it's not like he was right in my face where I was like, if it'd been like that, I'd read it and be like, yeah, okay, that's my fault, man. I should have read it. But, it's like click through here and then find this thing. And then there's this like obscure page on the website where no one goes to. So I think that, that solves a lot of, and again, it's just setting the expectation, right? I think, again, expectations. Biggest bit.
I'll just write, refer to common sense.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I
I
give people the benefit of the doubt that they have common sense, but
but that's the thing. Like in business, there's no such thing. I learned that the hard way as well, man. Like I do think that common sense is not selling drugs from your business, and that's what one of my previous business partners. Seriously, I had to get rid
that's
of him.
fucked, man.
I had to get rid of him because you're selling drugs and
actually, I remember you. So I asked you to, like, when we left Alliance and. Which was not that long ago, but in preparation had been working on the new website for Vantage. And I remember I had sent you multiple iterations of the website just for you to have a look over and tell me what you think. And I remember there was one bit on the contact us page that was, if it was something like, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was like 98% clear with this 2%, 1% of ambiguity in the way the phrase was worded or something. Like there was the tiniest little bit of like, I could see how someone having a stroke might misinterpret that, But Andres was like, man, you can't underestimate how stupid, like not in a rude way, but you can't underestimate how stupid people are. Yeah. Like, man, like you'll be surprised that people will read that, call you and ask blah, 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 blah. And you'll be like, what? Like, how, he's like, just change it to this. And I was like, yeah, all right, you're not wrong.
Be
like
super fucking clear.
Yeah. Like some,
that's the thing, right? Like it's exactly that. Like you think that common sense, but then what's common sense to you might not be to someone else. And then also you got to give people most people when they read something, they're not really going to go through it, word by, they kind of just scan through it and go, whatever, I've seen this before, whatever. So you gotta make sure that on your end, everything is set up so that when that conversation happens and they go to you and say, hey, what's going on here and here and here? And you go, man, it's very clearly stated front and center that you need to click here and read this. And if you haven't done so, that is your fault. Because then they can go back to you and say, oh, but the TNCs were hiding or this was happening or no. It's like, well, no, they were front and center. You just didn't read them. And then I can't go there and explain it to you word by word because I got all the stuff to do, right? So
did you call out the kite surfing guy about his T's and C's being hidden? Or you're like, fuck it, don't worry about it?
Yeah, I called him out. I was like, look, man, like I understand that happens. And he's like, oh, you can come back at another time. And I was like, I live in Sydney. Yeah. Like it's not like I can just fly to the UK and do a lesson for a day. And he goes, oh, well, and then he just fully ignored me for like 3 days. And then I was like, look, man, it would be nice if you can just maybe give me a voucher and then I can use it on your shop, on your like online store and buy a jacket or something, right? Yeah. Just get some value for it. It was like 150 pounds.
Wow. That's a lot.
It's a fair bit of money, right? So I was like, man, this is, I don't want to just let that go to waste. And he just wouldn't reply to me. So I went on his website on Google reviews and I was like, look, man, like this happened. You can actually see the review. And I put a picture of the thing, the invoice, and I was like, there's nothing here. Like you basically telling me that the TNCs, but there's no link to anything in here. I couldn't find them. And then he replied back to me after that. He's like, oh, hey, mate, sorry. Yeah, you might have got the wrong template for the invoice and so on and so on. I'm like, look, yeah, whatever. But you ignored me for 3 days.
Yeah,
that's
and
a lie.
He's like, oh, we'll just give you your money in a voucher and you can use it on. I was like, I don't want my money back. It's fine. Like, whatever. I don't want to do business with you ever again.
Too late.
Have your review, you bastard.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, so you're only replying to me because I left you a bad review.
Yeah.
I was like, doesn't matter. But yeah, I think just making sure that you take all the relevant steps to make sure that all information that they might need is front and center, so that when the conversation happens, you have something to refer to. Because that's key, right? Referring. It's like, man, like I showed you these, and whether you read it or not, well, that's I can't read it for you.
Yeah.
No refunds.
No refunds. All right. Well, let's wrap that up from. What'd we say? From school shootings to racism to dumping on the intelligence of humanity. It's been a good episode.
Yep.
Yeah. No. It was cool. I mean, we could. It's a shame that we actually left it right towards the end to to even mention how business savvy Andres is. We could do a whole episode just talking about, you know, starting a small business, right? And I mean, obviously in the context of our podcast would be starting a jiu-jitsu gym for most people, but maybe not. Maybe there's people listening who want to start
a jiu-jitsu business in general.
Like maybe horses. There's someone who wants to start an apparel thing for jiu-jitsu or start a
we don't need
brand.
another one of those.
Send your questions. I reckon they should send the questions to you guys. And if we got enough questions and enough interest, then we can do another one and just like focus it on that.
And if you have a question, you can go straight to our Instagram, link in our bio, submit questions to show.
But legit guys, like Andres has done a lot of, you know, consulting for me with the gym and website stuff. He's done consulting for Kieren as well. So
check out growby30.com.
Yeah, that's my consulting page. And I'll give you guys a bit of a
Grow by 30, 30 or 30?
No, 30
the word. Grow by 30.
I'll give you a bit of a teaser of what could come up in the next episode if we did about business. Anything from going from having my business partner selling drugs at the business, me firing him, and then him suing me for bullying after he was selling drugs at the business.
That's hectic.
Him winning, me calling the Venezuelan cartel.
No, he won. So he
won.
Yeah,
what?
He won. I don't want to give out too much. So he won, and then he's such a moron. You are a moron, mate. I hate you. Nah, I don't hate you. Good. No, you're not good, but whatever. So, man, like, he literally, like, at some point, and I'm pretty sure that if he's listening to this, he's gonna want to kill himself because, like, he sent out an email to us because he said he was like he had mental health issues because I called him an idiot when I fired him. He sent out an email from his new business email address to us with the lawsuit. So he had mental health issues, meaning he couldn't work for however many years, and we had to pay him out. We had to pay out like 90% of his salary for how many years, and he sent it out from his like contact at somethingcacao.com, and we just went onto ASIC and downloaded the registry documents for the business, and we went to a lawyer. We're like, hey man, so this guy, he
claims he can't work from mental health,
but he's the owner. Sole owner, director, and secretary for his own company, registered as so and so and so. I'm pretty sure he didn't even know that you could download those documents.
Yeah.
And then they had to go to court, and he ended up settling for like a few $100 when he was trying to get like 20 grand or something. Wow. It's fucking hilarious. Like every time I tell a story, people go like, "Yeah, you had to get rid of that guy."
Yeah.
Wow. Holy shit.
So we can go in, like, into detail of all the stuff that happened in between, how I could have avoided that. Because I made a promise to myself I was never going to let that happen again because I do have a lot of fault and
we've spoken a lot about that off air and it's fucking good shit. Yeah. It's really good.
So I mean, like, I think the same, like, you will have similar problems in terms of the structure of the problem in any kind of business. People who, again, expectations, what are people doing behind your back, right? Are they actually keeping up the promises, like your employees? Have you trained them properly, right, to keep those promises? And all these things, like it's all very important to the operation of the business and to your peace of mind, so you can actually sleep at night.
Yeah,
it's a key thing, right?
And why you should never go 50-50.
Yes,
anything.
Man, never do.
Never ever go 50-50.
Not even in your marriage.
Fuck.
What?
Oh,
you say that?
All right, guys. Well, yes. If you got any questions or if you need a drug contact.
Andres has got the hook up.
Andres has got an old friend that will look after you. Something cacao business.
I probably went broke anyways.
But yeah, thank you for coming on, Andres. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, man.
We'll be back next week with episode 120, Ask a Black Belt. If you're yet to submit a question, you'll still have a few days by the time of listening to this episode. If you listen to it when it airs, you'll still have a few days to submit a question.
And even if you're listening to it in the future, we don't like delete any of the questions. We store them for the upcoming Q&A. So submit at any time.
Yes.
We want to hear from you.
In our bio at Beyond Jiu Jitsu _podcast. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll catch you next time.
See ya.